I've known Andre and the Lift Boss team since not long after they formed their business. And we'll get to Andre's origin story, the origin story of Lift Boss, which is a great story. But I want to just share my first interaction. I was introduced to a wonderful gentleman by the name of John Gagnon. As you can probably determine, that is a relative of Andre, in fact, his father. And we were introduced through one of Prime's team members. And John gave me a hard time. It was like having a tough boss. John asked me a lot of questions. He knew the business inside and out. And the business at that time was starting out. It started out in the rental and the repair business. And John came to the table with some questions. And every time I came back with answers, he would make me go back and dig harder. It was a really good experience for somebody who is trying to grow their own business at the same time to have a tough customer, because if the bar is high and you can cross that bar, there's a really great feeling of having succeeded. And I think that's what Lift Boss has done through all of these years. They started in 2006, and I'll have Andre describe that journey of the original four partners and the journey that they've been on through all these years growing this business, and what a success story that's been. But I would like to welcome Andre first and ask him the question that I always want to know from people is, what was the kernel of idea that made you and your partners come together and hang a shingle up that said Lift Boss?
Well, hey, I was actually working for another heavy equipment dealership based out of Calgary. And honestly, there was an opportunity to go to BC and work for that same company at a higher level. And I knew at that point, if I would have taken that role, that would have kind of been the path and stuff. And my dad was looking to do something different, semi-retire. So I just said, hey, why don't we open a forklift dealership and see what that looks like? And he thought that was a good idea. He wasn't in the industry, tons of sales and business experience, and it was a chance for us to do something together. So another partner of ours, Dale Beatty, we talked to Dale. Dale was in the industry and a very good friend. And then a silent partner, Mark, looking for some capital. And we literally opened Lift Boss with a couple $100,000 and an empty bank account and some inventory. That is the honest truth. And 2 lines of equipment. It's insane. You couldn't even. I wouldn't even think about opening a store with that. No, I don't even know how it happened, but that is the truth. That is the start. Yeah.
So from that origin, were you guys sitting around a coffee table when you kind of hammered out the deal, and how were you going to, because bringing a bunch of people together in a partnership, running a business on your own and having the ability to make all the decisions is difficult on its own. And it's difficult because you're carrying all the weight and you can't sort of share the workload and bounce ideas off, but there's other resources you can go to. There's peer boards and other things and I know you're familiar with some of those, where you can get outside feedback about your business. But running a business with 4 partners, what boundaries did you have to put around, especially because you're close friends, your family members? How did you navigate those early years when it must have been pretty stressful getting out of the gate?
Honestly, it's crazy. Like, I wish, like, we have partial business plans that we still have and it's on like lined paper. Insane. Something a bank would look at and go, there's no way.
Yeah, are you for real?
Are you like, this can't work. It can't happen. And it's just the truth. Honestly, Mark was seed capital. So at the very beginning, there wasn't a ton of involvement. And me, Dale, and my dad, John, we just worked well together. Dale oversaw parts and service. Basically, me and my dad shared responsibilities for the business side of things and the sales side of things. And we just went at it. It was that simple. There wasn't a lot of conversations. There was some planning and long-term planning, like, holy man, we're hitting the ceiling again. We need to actually get a bank account. The second thing, we got pre-line pre anything was a bookkeeper. That was another big change in our business. Yeah, we worked together every day. We always knew we wanted to, as soon as we hit a certain level, we wanted to open a store in Calgary, which we did, again on a shoestring. Chris Migelski and Warren, they were working out of Edmonton. They went down to Calgary. They literally lived in an RV in Calgary outside the dealership at the time, not in the location it's at now. A funny story about that is because Warren's actually listening. Is they were living in their RVs, and it got a little chilly one night, and their water had frozen because they had hoses
Uh-oh.
hooked to the side of the shop. And Warren called me, and he's like, Andre, we're done with this RV business. We're going to a hotel now. Like, because they hadn't fully moved to Calgary yet. So
Enough with the frugalness.
yeah, exactly. Like it was over that day. I could understand. So just those little things like hard work and teams and just putting the right people in the right seats. And if they weren't the right people in the right seats, getting rid of them. I just say that bluntly, but that make quick decisions. Yeah, we just let the business grow organically.
So I think I met John in like 2010 or something like that, somewhere around 2010, 2011 at the latest. So you were a few years in, and I remember coming to your Yellowhead location that you don't occupy anymore, but I think you still have an interest in the property. And that was your first big investment, right? Was going from, well, we're going to rent some space and put a shingle up and repair some forklifts. How did you evolve the business? Like you didn't have capital, you didn't have a big bankroll that you could go out and get. You had to hustle and sell. And here you are talking about having gone from one location, expanding to a second city, being frugal, but you had to buy equipment, sell equipment, repair equipment, hire people and staff. That's a pretty daunting set of obligations to handle. How did you guys manage the stress of the growth? I mean, being frugal is a strategy, it's a tactic to get there, but how did you as a group negotiate between yourselves to kind of manage all of the stress that had to have been inevitable?
At the beginning, we were so small. We didn't take big wages. Like there was just not, we've always kept it realistic, even today. Like everybody's paid for a job and they're paid for their role, and we work in the business, and it's got to be successful that way. We still are a very, I guess, call it frugal company. We try to do the right thing. And like at the time, we were lucky at the time, I guess, a bit of luck. We had a really good market. Forklifts were selling. We had an awesome product line that was good to us. We had a distributor that was supporting us on the warranty side to a high level. We made a good partnership early with our first bank. Unfortunately, that didn't work out well in the end. So we actually exited that business, or exited that bank, and went to ATB. And ATB was a fabulous partner up until just a year ago. And just communication, honestly, communication with the bank is a big deal. That's a non-negotiable. So we're very open and honest, almost too open and honest sometimes. But I find that in that part of it, especially being an organic growth company, and we need to grow as a business. Like we are the small fish in our business. Everybody else is pretty much big publics, and we need to grow at that same level because we have a top 5 manufacturer that we sell now on the construction side of our business. So being open with the bank, and whether it's good or bad or otherwise, I think I believe that banks look at that too. It's not just, and that might be a bit naive in my opinion, but I don't know, it makes me sleep at night. So that's kind of what we do. And if the communication isn't there, then we're not going to be there either. So,
well, I want to go into that a little bit further, if you don't mind, that this sense of who do you work with over the long run. And it's not to say that over time, like even in your business, I know that you've had to make some strategic decisions on even the product lines that you're offering based on the support from the manufacturer, based on what is selling in the marketplace and where the demand is. I mean, you have to be really agile to know what is going to be valuable in the marketplace so that you can, I mean, you have to make enough money to pay the bills and put a cushion on the bottom line. And that's what your finance partners and the strategic people in your organization and outside of your organization are looking for. So when you're considering how do I align with the right, say, manufacturing partner and equipment partner, what are some of the things you consider?
Well, obviously a good product is number one. How they're going to support the product, the communication, and then the call it what the offerings are that product line has on the forklift side, like so the straight masted side, material handling side, let's say where we cut our teeth, where that was our first, call it, lines of equipment we sold. Straight masted forklift manufacturers typically are in that space, and that's what they do really well at. So you need multiple lines of material handling equipment, which we've been able to gather, and we've been fortunate enough that some of our lines of equipment were bought out by big equipment lines of equipment. So we have name brand backing now on some of those lines of equipment. So that's been great. We also added our own forklift line of equipment, straight masted
Congratulations. That's a
in the
big step.
yeah, well, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was. We're having them produced for us and putting our name on it. And honestly, that we were scared at first because, well, people were calling in, and this was a few years ago, and somebody said, "Oh, you should just manufacture your own lift truck called Lift Boss." And that's scary because, I mean, if the forklift, let's say, turns out to be not the greatest machine or something, our name's all over it. But people were essentially calling in saying, "Can you come fix our Lift Boss?" Like what? Like our dispatchers were going, "Well,
That
what's a
sounds
Lift
like
Boss?"
karma.
Yeah. So anyway, we did it about a year ago. So that's been good so far. We're just straight electric line, four-wheel and three-wheel electrics until the internal combustion engines can EPA standards get released for Canada, which is coming, and then we'll bring those.
Mhm.
Um, that's been going good. On the construction side of the business, we started with Doosan Heavy, which is heavy mining and oil and gas stuff. And they great product line. Since now they've become Devlon, still like the product line, but all heavy stuff. JCB approached us a little while back. Long story short, JCB offered a full line of equipment, including small chassis skid steers and backhoes and excavators and loaders and just a way broader full line of equipment. So we had to jump on board with JCB. So that's been a game changer for us. On that product line was very challenging. I can't even really get into it today, but there was so many different scenarios that went on with regards to changing manufacturers, to financing, which, Angela, you know how like you became such an integral role in that process. I always say it, but we wouldn't have that line today if it wasn't for you guys. And this is not paid for, but it's the truth. And yeah, that really was a game changer for us, JCB. So
Have you ever been faced with a situation where you had a good relationship with somebody? You've mentioned a couple times the value of communication and kind of being aligned. And I as a business owner, this is really important to me. I want loyalty to lead, and I will always give a lot of latitude for recovery on mistakes, right? We all make mistakes. We know none of us are perfect, and as long as we're making the effort to reach across the gap and close that gap, you always want to kind of recognize those long-standing relationships and people that share your values. Have you had a time in your business career where you had to cross the path and say, this relationship, we're no longer aligned on values? And how did you recognize that you were there?
are you like referring to like the people that work for us? Like
No,
staffing
maybe
or
partners and vendors where you had to say it's time to make a change. Where this business interaction that we have with this partner or this vendor just isn't working anymore. Like, what were the red flags? Because lots of times people stay in a relationship that's not serving them anymore, right? In life and in business.
well, you know what, we pride ourselves on we are, whether it be staff or vendors or banks, or we are loyal to a fault. Like we opened this business on a couple different models, and one being customer service, one being response time, and we try to live by that and open communication and honesty. So when we're going to move or make a decision about moving or leaving or exiting a relationship, we take it seriously, or something really, really terrible has to happen. I don't know if I think it comes around full circle. I truly believe that this might sound a little cheesy or whatever, but like good things happen to good people, and we have been through great times and we have been through the absolute crappiest times that you can believe. And seems like there's always a little star that comes around the corner. It might take a year, 2 years or whatever, but it always comes around.
I
So
love that. Would you say that, like, what I'm hearing from you is really a sense of optimism in the future, that we may be in the trench right now, but we just got to keep working through it and get to the end? Do you think that's a characteristic that you as a team developed, or do you think you all had it individually? Where do you think that tenacity comes from, that persistence?
well, we run a very, very tight management team. We meet every week. We do quarterlies, we do annuals. We have multiple department meetings on a weekly basis. We try to get as many staff involved as we can in most of our decisions. Our management team really, truly makes most of the decisions. And I feel like if we do it that way, then we have a whole team buying into what we're trying to do here. And it's like create good place to work that's fun. And yeah, it's not great all the time, but you know what? I think a majority of the time it's a pretty great place to work. So I think that's why when we make a decision to exit somebody or a vendor or something, you got to look at the personal relationships too, because the business is always going to be up and down. Cash flows always, like as a growth company, startup company, first generation. There's no second generation, third generation stuff going on here. No infrastructure whatsoever other than what we've built ourselves over the past 17 years. And it's always growing. There's always going to be, you're always putting back into the business. Always, always, always. So you have to enjoy it. And if you don't, well, got to find something else. I don't know what else.
This is the
I don't
truth.
know.
Or sometimes you say my sunk cost is so big, I don't have any choice but to go forward, right? Like
No.
I don't want to start all over again in something else. So I got to make this one work. I understand that sometimes it's failure is not an option.
Yeah, and we're not total gunslingers. Like we try to make some smart decisions. We back ourselves. Like if we're gonna buy something, we make sure we have the capacity to do it and stable ourselves long term so that it supports the business in a whole and basically giving back to the business. So, and I think our entrepreneurial community in Edmonton and Calgary and call it Alberta and even Canada in general is just so it's good when you're involved in that community. The support is there most of the time, and
Yeah.
it's good.
So
and good things
I'm
happen to good people. So that's why
well,
we
they
try to
do,
make those
and you have to
decisions.
surround yourself with good people too, right?
Yeah, 100%. And that's what we like our management team right now. I think there's not one person on our management team that hasn't been with us for minimum 7 years. Like I don't know exactly, but and then we have people on our management team that have been there for 17 years. It's 16 years.
Yeah.
That type stuff. So successioning is we work on our management team currently right now. We talk about successioning, and that is a real, they can never find anybody that they want to give the reins to. So we really
It's a
work on
common
that.
problem for entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's fun. I think I don't have anything else to say on that. I mean, it's all teams and growth and keep growing. And I don't know what we're going to do when we're not growing, to be honest with you. I think we'll just grow again.
Well,
Warren,
yeah.
sorry, Warren
It's always
prompted me
felt to
on
me
a,
like you guys were it always felt to me like you had a plan every year, that there was something new you were adding. Like you did continual growth every single year.
oh, 100%. And that's what our management team does. Our quarterly and annuals, that's what we talk about. Okay, so in the annual, what are we doing next year and where are we going to go? Because if you're not looking for something new, it's stagnant. And I mean, they always say grow or you're dead. So, and keep selling. So keep it keep it fresh. And we were just looking for those opportunities to be able to put stores in different locations. And we just opened in Lethbridge, which is fabulous. So that's our third store. And where next? We have a few ideas, but not 100% yet. But Warren prompted me on a game changer for us. I think he wanted it out there. But so this was right pretty much when we first opened, and we had no bank line. We had some money in the bank, but we got this one huge job in the shop, and it cost us about $350,000-$400,000 rebuild on this huge loader for a big railway company. And well, they were a very good customer of ours, and we got the job done. We delivered the job back, and they were slow pay. I'm talking slow. I basically, literally, we were done. We had to get paid. We had no money, zero. And payroll was coming. And this is like in the first, call it year and a half. I was in the guy that ran that part of the thing. And I was literally in his office that day, and I was begging him. I'm like, you need to pay us, seriously. Because I think we were pushing 90 days or something on this thing.
Oh,
yeah.
The bank is knocking, saying the line of credit
the bank wasn't knocking. We didn't have a
credit. Oh, geez.
It was
so
all
the
cash.
fridge was empty at home.
It was all cash. And I begged him. I'm like, seriously, Ken, you need to pay us. So Ken, and Ken will laugh about this today, but he literally made a phone call to Toronto, and we were paid the next day. And it was that was a game changer for us. That took us from that job to our revenue just went through the roof at that point. And I don't know what the scenario was on that. Because the business was there, and we were selling lots of gear, but the service business really went really well after that. So that was it. That was a good first step.
So what possessed you? I think I wrote an article about this actually, because I've had this exact experience in my business where in the early days, I'm laying awake at night. My husband wakes up the next day, how was your sleep? And I don't want to tell him I didn't sleep at all, because then I would have to tell him why I didn't sleep. And I didn't want to talk about it. I'm just like, yeah, it'll work out. And I'll tell him after it's worked out. So it's this sense of, I've stepped into, it looks like it's solid ground, but it could be quicksand. I'm not sure. What possessed you? Is it a level of confidence? Does it have to be with the right customer and the right opportunity? Because that could have, if they didn't pay you, you could have been done, right?
Oh yeah.
That's the boundary. And that's why entrepreneurship is crazy difficult. And if people are looking or assume that it's, well, you just go forward and the business plan works and you pay your bills every month. No, you're flipping through phone bills all the time and trying to figure out, how am I going to scrape together 75 cents to pay that bill?
I think a little bit naive, to be honest with you.
I would say the same. You don't know what you don't know.
If you don't know any different, it doesn't really matter. A bit naive, I guess. You have to do what you have to do. And I always thought they were going to pay us. I just, when was the time? So, and I mean, we're pretty strategic. Even back then we were strategic. We knew our customers, we know who they are. We had all the right things in place, fairly good. And being able to have that personal contact and relationship, and again, communication, and the whole system in place to be able to make it happen, that would be it. And then I think it goes a long way, and that's changed nowadays a little bit, which I'm not willing to change. But instead of an email, maybe a phone call, or go and stop in, rather than shoot somebody a text or email, especially on a subject that could get heated, or even if it's a good conversation, rather than saying, hey, thanks for the order, maybe call them and say, hey, thanks for the order. I think it makes a big difference. So we haven't changed. I don't think we've changed, or I have, or I think our management team's fairly good at it. We just have to make sure that we tell that to our team so that everybody's doing it. And we are not perfect by any stretch. I believe that we send the emails, we send the text messages. I know we do. But I think that's one thing that I can't express it enough, is the open communication, whether it be a vendor or customer or employee or staff or team or whatever you want to call it. I think that's one of the most important things.
Yeah. It's difficult to maintain that in a marketplace where things seem to be going faster. There's this rush to what's more expedient versus making the people investment, that human investment. And we just had a conversation about that this week with our team about the difference between what makes us efficient as a business and what makes us resilient as a business. And the resilience, I think, is what gets you through the tough parts. I mean, I've had the privilege of attending some of your team events, and it really does feel like a big family. And I am reluctant to use the word, family in a business context, because I think we all have our families and you should go home to them and enjoy that relationship. And business is a little bit different, but it's the level of trust and reciprocity that you create by being open. And you, Andre, have a quality which you probably, I don't know if you know this about yourself, but you're a really vulnerable leader. Like, you're always willing to kind of say it as it is real. And you are honest with people about what's going on. And you talked about earlier about this maybe being, yeah, maybe we're too honest. But I think that's a really sad thing, that we live in a business world where sometimes, at least in the short run, we reward people that tell like a little bit of a fictional story to look good, as opposed to saying, hey, it might not be perfect right now, but here's the game plan. Here's how I know we can do it because I've done it before. Here's where we were, here's where we are. And we need a little bit of patience right now. So that honesty and that vulnerability, I think that's part of your success. And having observed your team together, I think that's a characteristic that your team shares as well, is that it's real and people know where it is all the time. So that takes some real effort to create that environment.
Well, I appreciate that. That's what we try to believe and try to do. And our management team, I think, does a really good job at it. And it's the truth. My favorite question comes from customers so many times. It's not every time, but so many times they ask it in a certain way, especially professional purchasers. They'll always say, is it going to break? How's it going to break? What's going to break? All this kind of stuff. And I tell our salespeople all the time, I'm like, yeah, tell them it's going to break. Of course it's going to break. It might break as soon as it gets there. It's a machine. That's why we have a service department, but we're going to get out there and we're going to fix it. And that will sell you more machines than anything ever, if you're just honest with them, because they know it's going to break. They already own the equipment. So that's kind of one thing. And if you can take those little things and put them in every aspect of the business, whether it be instead of you got to call on an angry customer on the service side or whatever, just call them and talk to them. You usually can talk them off the ledge. There's some people that are not, but most of the time, I think most people will be open to that for a few times. So, but I appreciate those comments, because honestly, that's what we try to do. So.
Well, it shows. When you think about what you had to do, like the going and begging to be paid, and you're not the first, my friend Ron Brown, he tells a story much like that. And I'm sure we've had a glass of wine or some kind of beverage and talked about those kinds of early moments where you're like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to make all the dollars come. My husband used to say when I would come home, or he could see in my face, he said, so what does your day look like tomorrow? And I said, I'm dialing for dollars. It's the job. I got to get the money in the door so we can make the things go around. And that was always about maintaining really good relationships, but it does pay off. Sometimes it's far in the future where you see the reward of planting those seeds. And I would also say another thing that I've observed about your team is you plant seeds all the time without expectation of something growing right now. You're just really generous in how you deal with people, and you give first and with no expectation. And I would say that's not always common experience. Most people, there's this sort of balance sheet they're maintaining all the time. Well, I gave you something, so what are you going to give me? What's in it for me? And my experience with you is a very generous experience, and you're also really generous in the community as well, aren't you?
We try to do as much as we can in the community. We try to get as involved as much as we can. I think it goes a long way if you do something for a company or somebody without expectation. There is people that will take advantage of that,
Of
but
course.
I don't believe you can't foresee that. You can't track it. You just can pay attention to it. So yes, we will lead with trying to help first because we are a service business and we have to take care of our customers. And if that's going to gain us one customer, then fabulous. And if we just help somebody out and the view of our company is that way, I think that goes a long way. So, but
Yeah.
we doing it that way, I don't believe, well, it doesn't burn us often. I think, like I said before, I think the Edmonton, Calgary, Alberta in general business community is really good. And I think they overall, like big scale, look out for Alberta business and or even Canadian business. So I mean that's our thing. That's just what we know and we want to do.
Yeah, and I guess the
And it
hard
feels good.
part, yeah, it does feel good because you feel like you're doing the right things for the right reason, irrespective of what somebody else might believe. I wonder if you have a reflection about the days when you were dialing for dollars, as I said, compared to now. Not that you're less frugal or less conscientious about that and that you're always driving. I know what that's like. There's more of it, but there's also more complexity. There's more people to take care of. You've got so many parking spots outside of your building, and you want to make sure each one of those people has meaningful work and continuous work, and the clients can rely on you. But as a leader, what has changed about how you conduct yourself every day from those early days where you're doing everything? You've got all these hats you're juggling versus now. How have you tried to refocus your leadership skills, and what did it take for you to go from that point in time to where you are today?
I think it just evolved like to get to this point is what you're asking.
Like, how do you think you've changed, and how did you navigate that?
Well, well, again, Edmonton's got a strong business community, so peer-to-peer groups, stuff like that. I try to ask lots of questions. I think obviously we try to have more meetings, we engage with our teams more, and as our management team came closer and grew more, then we were able to have our departments meetings, and then sitting in those department meetings, trying to you can't obviously sit in all these different meetings all the time or that's all you do, but popping in and sitting in those meetings and trying to take one takeaway. Okay, that's an issue that they're going through and maybe I can help solve that. If there's one of the dealerships struggling in a certain area, okay, we're gonna put a call it a mini team meeting together on, okay, let's put a focus group on this, and here's the issue, and this is what we got to fix. And then I like those, and we try to move those around from different departments. And there's always going to be an issue that you can have that going on. So that's kind of how it's evolved to today. So essentially we have all our department meetings, we have our management meeting, and then this new thing that we've started, and honestly it started in the last couple months, basically a small focus group meeting when we'll take maybe one person from the department and we'll
You're
put
back.
through, sorry.
I think you were frozen for a second.
Oh, okay. What did you miss? Anyway, putting this focus
Yeah,
group
just
meeting into place and yeah, trying to solve the issue or grow the business, whatever it may be.
did you ever find that there was a particular part of leadership that you struggled with? And if so, like, how did you figure that out?
That's a really good question. That wasn't on the list. Angela.
Oh, well, so I always have secret questions.
That was a good one. I would say my biggest struggle is I would say hiring people. Like once and I don't know if I'm too vulnerable or I'm just not sure, but just hiring people is just not my forte. I sit and somebody can bamboozle me, and I don't really I don't like looking at resumes, to be honest with you, because anybody can put whatever on their resume. So you try to go by, I don't know, go by how they act and how they talk. And it's worked sometimes and sometimes it's failed miserably. One thing that I do like doing is engaging with our management team and working with them so that can happen way better. So I would say that would be my biggest struggle as a leader is hiring people. The other is sitting still for a long time in a meeting is not my forte.
Like in an interview?
like we're at 2:44 and we got another 10 minutes.
We're done. We're almost done.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, those would be the two biggest things. Yeah.
If you were trying to look ahead a little bit, and we can skip any specific conversation about whatever's going on right now in the world, which seems a little surreal to me. I can't quite figure out how we got to the place that we're in, but once again, I have this perspective, well, failure is not an option, so we will figure it out. If you look down the road for Lift Boss over the next 5 years or 10 years, I mean, you mentioned succession planning. I know you have a really diligent leadership communication strategy where you're always evaluating success against your objectives. What are the big objectives for the business over the next 5 or 10 years?
Continue to grow. I think supporting our two main stores, so Edmonton and Calgary, supporting those with satellite divisions. I think that's we're going down that path as we've opened a brand, call it a dealership in Lethbridge, and I really like those types of locations at this point. I'm trying not to give away the farm here.
Don't tell me anything that's not public knowledge.
Yeah. I think that's the track. We have a real estate side of the company, so we try to own our real estate as much as possible. So I think that supports the business really well just by asset support. So we'll continue to grow that. In the next 5 years, we have a couple people on our team that may retire. So succession planning in that side of it, but also those people I believe they're like me. They love the business, and it's going to be tough. I don't think they will retire. So, but I always think that way. So just trying to find people in that and people that fit in our culture, and culture is a big piece for us. Like we continue to do the get-togethers, which we're due for one here in Edmonton again, and we're definitely due for one in Calgary. We'll keep doing those things, but in the big scheme of things is we just want to keep selling more machines and grow our market share. That's the biggest one for us is high population of our equipment, and that'll sustain absorption rate for our service departments, and how we're going to do that is by adding good people and just letting it grow organically, I guess you could say.
Well, I can't wait to be at your 25-year celebration, and we're going to have one later this year. And I hope you will join us when we celebrate, because it's by knowing great people like you that we're inspired to keep doing the work we do. And like you said, not every day is easy. Not every day is fun. There's always headwinds, and there always will be. And we need to be resourceful and creative. And I think the most important thing, you've said it so many times today, is it's the people, right? Get good people around you, get good people with you, and you can go far.
Yep.
I have a couple of fun questions. I'm going to open up. If anybody has any questions, you pop them into the Q&A, but I'm going to ask Andres a couple of fun questions and fast answers, whatever comes first to your mind.
You don't want that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll edit.
We're going to edit first.
Yeah, exactly. I hand you a check for $5 million today. What do you do with it?
Buy a building. Did you hear me?
Yeah, $5 million.
Buy a building.
Buy a building. Oh, okay. For the property, for the business?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Second one, if you were in a zombie apocalypse, what would be your strategy for survival?
Oh man, probably sit behind my brother-in-law.
Warren will take them all out.
Yes,
It's just tough.
he's a tough guy. That we're
He's
good
tough.
there.
I don't know. He just put some music on and get them all dancing, so the zombies wouldn't even be. He's just he's a lover, not a fighter. He loves the music. He's the best
Yeah.
DJ. Pineapple or meat pizza.
Oh God, I love them both. A meat pizza.
Tell me something you have that people would be surprised about.
Uh, I have lots of hobbies. I guess right now would be 3D printing.
Oh, I have to learn more about that because I'm curious about that too. Okay, last rapid fire question. If you weren't a business owner doing what you do right now, what dream job would you be doing? And there is no barriers to the job.
Oh man, that's another good one. I think I would like to be a sports agent.
Oh, fun. For any particular sport or all sports?
All sports.
Why is that? What do you like about it?
I think you'd always be entertaining, and you would always be having to make a deal with God knows how many different types of personalities. I just think it would be really interesting. And then dealing in between teams, once you had there's so many levels of that sale that would be there. There's like 5 different levels of that sale. And then the negotiations in between all of them. So I just think it would be you'd have to be really thoughtful about what you did and how you acted and how you reacted, and it'd be a rush, I think.
Well, it sounds like that's Andre in a nutshell and all your transferable skills. I want to turn this back over to Justin. Andre, it's a privilege to know you. It's been a privilege to watch you and your team grow this business. I'm very excited for the next few years you have ahead of you until you get to your 25-year anniversary. And I know you're just going to continue to have success, and I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I always look forward to our time together. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Another one due soon. Thanks, Justin. Over to you.
Thanks so much, guys. That was awesome. I know these conversations are super helpful for the younger generation, for people who want to go into business, people who are new or just starting off businesses. So Andre, thank you for your insights and your time. And on a personal note, I met you when I was pretty fresh into working with Prime, and I was a newbie and nervous and wanted to make a good first impression. And from the moment I met you, everything was diffused and you made me feel super comfortable, and you're just a stand-up guy. Showed me around your whole place, and so that just your character is super strong. I think that's a big reason why you're where you are today as well. So just wanted to just add that at the end here. Thank you both of you for your time, and thank you to everyone who sat in and listened. I hope you took something from it. We'll have a reporting and some clips up as well for the future. So yeah, once again, thanks to everyone, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.